Bare metal mail servers in 2026. Is that old school or still worth it? In previous videos we looked at Mailcow and MailU, modern Docker-based mail servers. Today we're doing the opposite. We're setting up iRedMail, a classic all-in-one mail server that installs directly on Linux. And at the end, I'll compare it to Mailcow using these 5 categories. Most self-hosters, me included, start with Docker today. Mailcow is among the most popular because it's fast to deploy, easy to update, and beginner-friendly. iRedMail, on the other hand, follows a different philosophy. No containers, no abstraction, just classic Linux services. Neither approach is wrong, but they appeal to different mindsets and people. But before we explore this mail server, a quick thank you to our today's sponsor, MIVO Cloud. This video is sponsored by MIVO Cloud, a trusted provider of VPS, dedicated servers and web hosting solutions. MIVO Cloud gives you everything you need to run your projects reliably and securely. MIVO Cloud has data centers in Europe, US and other strategic locations, and you can choose between CentOS, Debian, Fedora, Ubuntu or even Windows Server. MIVO Cloud was even so kind to provide this discount code for 30% off for the first 3 months for your first order. Link is in the description together with the code and all other details. iRedMail is not a single server, it's a full mail stack installer. When you run it, it automatically sets up everything a real mail server needs. I'm talking postfix for SMTP, that service sends your emails to other mail servers on the internet. You get Dovecot for IMAP and POP3. That one allows you to receive emails on an email client like Outlook, Thunderbird or even on your phone. Also Spam Assassin. That one is pretty straightforward, it just keeps your inbox clean. It also installs ClamAV for antivirus scanning to protect your mailboxes from malicious attachments and known malware. It comes with Roundcube or Sogo, that's your classic webmail, so you can access your emails anywhere, anytime, in any browser. And of course the database, MariaDB, MySQL or LDAP. That one defines where user accounts are stored and how authentication works, depending on what environment you prefer. All of those services run directly on the host system. No containers, no Docker and no abstraction layers in between. Before we start installing, there is one critical rule. iRedMail must be installed on a completely fresh server. As mentioned, the installer touches a lot of system services. And if any old leftovers are still on the system, iRedMail will break or behave unpredictably. For this demo setup, I'm using a cloud server running Ubuntu Server 24 long-term support with root access and a public IPv4 address. And again, if you had Mailcow, MailU or any other mail server previously installed on that server, you need to reinstall the operating system. iRedMail doesn't like leftovers and will save you hours of troubleshooting or starting clean. We will follow the whole installation process from the official iRedMail documentation by first checking the host name and then downloading the latest release of iRedMail. And the installation will just simply start with a script and then it will run through the script asking you a bunch of questions and then setting up everything. But we will do that step by step together. And for the web server and everything to work, you need to set up an A record for your subdomain before the installation. For me, in Cloudflare, it looks something like this. You have your domain, the sysadminhub.net, and then you have the A record for iRedMail to the IP address. We start by checking our host name with the hostname command. Mine is sysadminhub, but that's not the correct one for iRedMail. I will set the hostname with the command hostnamectl set hostname to iRedMail.thesysadminhub.net, because this subdomain will become the MX record and also the subdomain to access the webmail. After that, you need to reboot your server with the command reboot. If you did everything right, you can run the hostname command again, and then it will output you iRedMail.thesysadminhub.net in my case. On the iRedMail documentation, we can go to the download page, and in here, I just right click, copy the link clean, and then let's go back to the terminal. Let's run the command wget and then paste in your link, and that one will just download directly the latest version. That way you don't need to download it on your computer and then transfer it via SFTP or a secure copy onto your server. You just download it directly onto your server. Now we uncompress the file with tarball. Just enter tar cfx and then the name of the file. And then you will get this, in my case it's purple, this folder in here. Let's change into it and then let's see what's in here. There are a lot of files and directories in here, but what we need right now for the installation is the iRedMail.sh script. And to run it, we use the command bash iRedMail.sh. So now it's downloading a bunch of stuff and now it's telling us to press enter to continue or Ctrl+C to cancel. And of course we want to continue. So now it's adding another component here to the repositories. We want to continue. So enter, it's going to fetch a bunch of stuff here. And now we're prompted with this welcome screen here for the installation of iRedMail. So we can abort at this point still with Ctrl+C, but we want to continue. Here we can set the default mail storage path. I'm just going with default here in the directory var vmail. And now it's asking us for our preferred web server. There's either Nginx or no web server. I go with the default Nginx. This one is the first important decision here. It's asking us to choose the preferred backend to store our mail accounts. We have OpenLDAP, MariaDB or PostgreSQL. I'm going to go with MariaDB. You can use the space key to select your item and then enter for next. And since MariaDB is a fork of MySQL, it's going to state here MySQL. And now it's asking us for a password for the root user. So you just enter a password here and then confirm it with enter. Don't forget to write it down in your password manager. Here it's asking us for our first mail domain. Don't worry, you can set up more domains later on in the user interface, but this one is the first one. For example, in my case, I'm using the sysadminhub.net. This step is important. Now you're going to choose a password for the mail domain admin. And now you need to enter a password in here. Don't forget to write those down because you need them to log in. In this screen, it's asking us for optional components. The DKIM and the SPF validation are enabled by default, but here we can choose Roundcube, Sogo, NetData, iRedMail, and Fail to Ban. I prefer Sogo, so I'm going to deselect here, Roundcube, and select Sogo. The NetData, iRedAdmin, and Fail to Ban are already selected by default. And here we have a warning because in this directory, in this config file, there will be username and password stored. So after the installation, please remember to move that file into a safe place. And then you can review the settings to make sure everything is just the way you want, especially your domain. Make sure you don't have a typo in here or else you can't set DNS records for that. We want to continue, so let's enter with yes. And now it's downloading and installing and doing everything. This might actually take a few minutes. And the installation is complete. For me, it took like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 minutes. Now it's asking me here at the end if I want to use the firewall rules provided by iRedMail. By default, it's yes. So let's use the default here. And now it's asking us if we want to restart the firewall. No, because the default is no, or else we will use the SSH session as well. And here in this screen, now it's telling us again the username that we can use for login. Together with the password, please use a secure password. And then also you have this file iRedMail.tips for some more information. And also it's telling us here with a little warning that we need to reboot our system to enable all mail services. So let's do this. And please don't panic if this reboot takes longer than expected because we just installed a bunch of stuff. So of course, Linux might take a while to work all over this. For me, the reboot took about 1.5, maybe 2 minutes. If you enjoy my content, leave a like and consider subscribing. It really helps out small channels like mine grow. Thank you for your support. Now with everything up and running, we have 2 URLs that we can use. First one, your subdomain /iRed SysAdmin. The second one, your subdomain /mail. The first one is the admin panel, obviously. The second one is the webmail. So let's check out the admin panel first. It will give you a warning first in your web browser because there is no proper SSL certificate there yet. Just ignore that for now, and then it will greet you with this login page. The username is what you had there before. I hope you wrote that down together with your password that you hopefully wrote down as well. So let's log in here. If for any reason you forgot the password, don't worry, just go into the terminal, into your iRedMail directory, and then in here there is this config file. If you open it up, then in here you see your domain admin password in plain text, secure password 123 in my case. In this admin panel, you have your dashboard with a little system information in here. You have domains and accounts. This is where you have all your domains. And as I said, you can add more domains here on your mail server. And then of course you can add more admins and you can add users for your different domains here. Every user equals another mailbox. The admin panel doesn't show you that much. So let's check out the SOGO. By entering the URL iRedMail.thesysAdminHub.net/SOGO, you end up in this login screen here. And now we can log in with our user, for example, the postmaster or any other user that you might have created. And this one might look familiar to you because Mailcow uses SOGO as well. So we already know and love this. That's why I chose SOGO, because I'm not a big fan of Roundcube myself. And iRedMail even already sent us some information here. So the first email that we got is this one here with the ports for POP3, IMAP, SMTP and stuff like that. Then there is also some documentation and useful resources for admins. And then we also got one email with details for this iRedMail installation. So you got your account here with your password and also the information for the first mail user. Here it also states where the SSL certificates are. So you have those one, which means you can request certificates yourself and then just replace them here. Let's just do this, right? One really important information here, the DNS record for the DKIM support. So you have this key here. This is the DNS record with this key. This is really important. You need to set that up. But first, let's do the SSL certificate. For that, we need to apt install certbot, so we can get free certificates from Let's Encrypt. And now with the command certbot, cert only -- standalone -- and then your subdomain, we can request a certificate. And now it's asking us for an email address. So let's give him one, and then we need to agree to the terms of service. And now it's telling us that it could not use the port 80 because it's already used by something else, which is the Nginx web server. But it's not a big deal. We can just systemctl stop Nginx service. Now it's stopped, and then we can just R for retry. Now it should be working, and it did. We have the certificates here at etsy Let's Encrypt live. You have the domain and then full chain PAM and private key. So here in the lower terminal we can just start Nginx service. Everything is accessible again through the web interfaces. So now we want to use those certificates. So we go to etsy SSL certs, and then we rename the self-signed certificate from iRedMail, and then let's make a symbolic link here. And the command for the symbolic link is ln-s, then the location of the full chain PAM, and then the name, we call it iRedMail.crt again, and then the private key is one directory back in etsy SSL private. So we just rename this too with the move command into iRedMail old. And then we also create a symbolic link here with ln-s, then the location again to the private key.pam, and the name is iRedMail.key. So it is in here. Why do we use symbolic links here? Because the Let's Encrypt certificate is only valid for 90 days. So Let's Encrypt automatically renews those, and then with the symbolic link, it always stays a link to this Let's Encrypt file. And just to be safe, I rebooted the server again, and then when you refresh the pages or you close the browser and open the browser again, it should tell you that it's using the Let's Encrypt certificate now. But let's go back to the admin panel first, because as I mentioned in my other mail server videos, DNS is absolute key. If you don't set up your DNS records properly, then your mails might end up in spam, or you might not even receive any mails at all. But anywhere you look, you can check here in the admins, you can check the admin log. There's nothing in here. You can check the domain. You have just the domain profile in here. There is nothing really that points you to any DNS records. And this is a key difference between an iRedMail mail server setup and something like Mailcow or MailU. While the other two provide you the DNS records, iRedMail expects you to know what you're doing. Alright, so what DNS records do we need? We need an A record, we already have that. We need an MX record, we can set that up in Cloudflare. The same goes with SPF. The DKIM key we have received via mail, but they are also in the tips file. And the DMARC record we can also set up by ourselves. And one important record is the PTR record, the reverse DNS record, which can't be set up in Cloudflare or any other domain provider because it needs to be set up from your IPv4 provider. So I log in here in MIVO Cloud and then I can just change the PTR record in here to match it with the A record of the subdomain. Okay, let's do this step by step. The first one is the MX record. So let's add a new record and choose MX, and then in Cloudflare you enter add for the whole domain, and then the mail server is your first subdomain. Your A record is iRedMail.thisIsadminHub.net in my case, and the priority is number 10. The next DNS record is the DKIM domain key. So this one is a TXT record with DKIM._domain key, and the content for that is from that first email. You remember? I mean this one right here that you got here in Sogo in my case, with the DNS record for the DKIM support. Here you have the record again, and also it says here it's a TXT, and then you have this one in here. In the email there were a lot of quotes in here in the beginning and the end of every line, so I just removed every quote instead of the first one and the last one. So let's hope I can save this now. Alright, now that I removed the quotes completely, I think I can save this. Yeah, it worked. The next DNS record is another TXT record for DMARC. It's just _DMARC. In Cloudflare it always appends the name by itself, and then the content is just this one. And the last DNS record is another TXT record, which is the SPF record for the whole domain. So you just enter another add here for root, and then this content here you just use your IP address in there. In my other mail server videos there are a lot more DNS records. Of course you can set those up for iRedMail too, like auto configure and all those SRV records and stuff like that. But those records that I showed you here are the bare minimum, so you can send and receive emails. So now let's test if we can actually receive some emails on this server. So I'm sending a test email to postmaster@thisisadminhub.net, and it worked. Here we have the test email from my mail account, thisisadminhub.com. That's a different domain from what we've set up here with my Testmail. So let's see if we can even reply to that. And this one worked as well. So we have from postmaster@thisisadminhub.net, which is the iRedMail server, to contact@thisisadminhub.com, which is my email address. So we could send back an email there. So this is working already pretty fine. But before we move on and compare the iRedMail server to Mailcow, here are the most common mistakes that people run into with iRedMail. Installing on a server that isn't fresh. As I said in the beginning, it's really important that you reinstall the operating system completely new and fresh. Skipping the required reboot. After the installation, do a reboot. As in everything with IT, if something is not working, just try a reboot. DNS records, especially PTR and the DKIM record, if you miss them or you don't have them correct, then your emails might end up in spam or might not get delivered at all. Blocked ports. If you have your port 25, 110, 143, 995, 993, 587, 465 or any other mail server port, if they are blocked, then you can't receive and send emails. Check the firewall on your Linux server itself. Check the firewall from your server hoster if there is an extra firewall for that. And if that's still not working, get in touch with the support of your server hoster, because those ports might be blocked outbound and you can't even see those then. Then you need to request to unblock them outbound so you can send and receive emails. And those pitfalls aren't bugs, there are classic mail server problems. Now that we have set up iRedMail successfully, Let's compare it to Mailcow. The first category is setup and installation. iRedMail installs everything directly onto the system. That's bare metal. There is no isolation layer and no easy way to undo mistakes. It feels very permanent. Mailcow takes a different approach. Everything runs inside Docker containers. That makes it easier to redeploy, migrate to a different server, or roll back completely to a previous version if something breaks. So Mailcow wins because of its flexibility. Category number 2 is administration and features. iRedMail gives you a lightweight admin panel, but it also gives you full access to postfix and dovecode, and you can configure everything in the command line if you choose to. Mailcow bundles everything into one user interface. In here you have logs, spam settings, rate settings, and mailbox limits. And it hides a lot of complexity behind this user interface. Feature-wise, they're surprisingly close. The difference is in the philosophy. Mailcow is admin friendly and iRedMail is SysAdmin friendly. For me personally, Mailcow wins because it's more user interface friendly. In iRedMail you can do the same things like in Mailcow, but through the command line. Category 3 is DNS support. DNS is one of the biggest pain points while running a mail server. Mailcow makes it pretty easy. It gives you a clean summary of every DNS record with the type, the correct data and the current state, and it even gives you a green tick if the DNS record is correct. It's almost impossible to get it wrong. iRedMail on the other hand shows you one DNS record via an email or in the command line, and the rest of it you are supposed to know by yourself. So points go to Mailcow again for this one. Category 4 is webmail. Mailcow uses Sogo and iRedMail also uses Sogo, but with iRedMail you also have the option to also use Roundcube. Me personally, I don't enjoy Roundcube that much, but to be fair, I need to give the points to iRedMail here because of the flexibility. And the last category is updates and backups. With iRedMail you follow a classic Linux package management. You run apt update and apt upgrade. The backups are also like any other Linux server. You need to do them manually and configure them manually. It's up to you what backup strategy you use and how you use it. In Mailcow you have an update.sh script that you can run, and there is also a script for a backup and restore program. And since Mailcow runs in Docker, even a version rollback is pretty easy. So if you want the old school Linux way, iRedMail feels natural. But I prefer simple and predictable updates. So the winner is Mailcow in this category as well. So overall, is iRedMail still worth it today? Point-wise, in my opinion, Mailcow wins. Let me know if you would have rated them differently. But the real question is, what kind of admin do you want to be? If you prefer bare metal servers, classic Linux administration, and full ownership over every single service that runs on your server, then iRedMail is not outdated and not old school at all. It is intentional, it is predictable, and the traditional way of running a mail server. And some people absolutely love that. Are you going to run an iRedMail mail server, or do you prefer Mailcow or even MailU? Containers or bare metal? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video, and a big thank you again to MIVO Cloud for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check them out. Link is in the description and in the pinned comment down below, together with a promo code for 30% off for the first 3 months for your first order. See you next time.